All right, so when you hear Dodge van, what do you think of? I mean, are you thinking of 1970s shag carpet? Are you thinking porthole windows in the back? Are you thinking 3 on the tree, maybe? Things certainly have changed in the 21st century, as you're about to see. Have you ever heard of a Dajiban? It's literally a Dodge van that underwent a kind of, I don't know, JDM sex change? I'm not sure how to describe it, but you just have to see one in action. And I'm talking on the track. We're talking drifting. Drifting. It's really cool to see. We'll show you a video of it. Our guest today is the right guy to explain all things Dajiban. And if you like what you see, stick around because we can explain how maybe you could do it and how to support mental health at the same time. Welcome, Luwin Kwan.
Yes.
You're the guy who knows everything about Dajiban.
Okay, that's...
Am I saying it correctly?
That is, you're saying it correctly.
Okay.
That's an overstatement. I'm not the guy that knows everything.
Well, in this room,
you're
Yeah.
the expert.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay.
All right.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Well, the other thing I should say, too, is that because I watched it last night for the first time, I really didn't know anything about this rule, but I saw the video, and you were on Larry Chen's YouTube channel, and it was really fun to watch, by the way.
Yeah, it was.
Great
Thank
job
you.
on that.
What was it like? Because I know he was like kind of like tripping out because he was driving it. You know,
Yeah.
driving something like that for the first time. Was he really like kind of like tripping? Was he nervous or?
You know, Larry, he wasn't nervous. He was like, excitable. I think it's very different than what he typically
For sure.
tests and drives. You know, it's a lot slower. It's a lot more vague.
Yeah. It's a lot
bouncy.
bigger.
Yeah. So it's one of those where, yeah, I don't think he knew. You know, I think you don't really know what to expect until you actually are behind the wheel, bouncing up and down, touching the surfaces and
Yeah,
whatnot.
he seemed a little
too.
nervous, actually.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
So for anybody who doesn't know, like me, there's still a lot I don't know, obviously. Dajiban, what is it? How would you describe it to somebody who has no clue like me?
So how I would describe it is a mid 90s to early 2000s, that generation. So Dajiban, first of all, is the literal pronunciation of how the Japanese pronounce Dodge van. They break up the Dodge, Daji, and then ban, right? And yeah, so how I would describe it is an American full-size Dodge van with a Japanese tuner twist. That's how I would kind of describe it in a nutshell.
So the JDM sex change thing was pretty damn close.
Pretty damn close.
Okay,
Yeah.
JDM transitions.
Transitioning, yeah.
Right, it's like mid-transition, though, because they have identities of both still.
Yeah.
So it's just confused.
I love it. So, okay, so you they go through this transformation, if you will. What is it that changes? I mean, what do you change on the van to make it performance-oriented, I guess?
Well, I think touching a little bit about how I heard of it originating was that they had a surplus of these vans on different military bases in Japan, and they were getting them, scooping them up at auction and whatnot too, transporting their motorcycles to the racetrack because it's so easy just to throw on a ramp, roll your bike right up there, don't have to worry about
Makes sense, yeah.
it being outside or whatnot too. And as crazy and wild our Japanese, tuners are, they're like, hey, why don't we toss these vans on the track and have some fun since we're here, type of thing. And then that's kind of what I heard of how it started. And, seeing the videos, reading the articles, I started noticing it was a lot of suspension and brake mods, as well as like the wheels and tires, the overall aesthetic. And then I think that's what is most important because you're talking about a big full-size van that goes already. I think it's the turning and stopping part that we're going to need to focus on.
Well, and I think of a van, especially a full-size van. I'm thinking top-heavy. I'm thinking, this thing's not going to drift.
Yeah, I know. When you watch the drifting, you're just like,
oh.
yeah.
Well, if you think about it, though, it's front bias because the engine's in the front, transits towards the front. The back end it's part of a box, so
Yeah.
it's really light. So I would, and those motors, is it a V8 or V6s in them?
So they do come with the V6, and then they have two V8s, the 5.2 and the 5.9.
Are they Hemis?
They are Magnums.
Oh, okay. So they've got plenty of torque, so it shouldn't be hard to get those wheels to spin.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure the Japanese guys, when they first discovered it, was probably like, "Ooh, torque!" Because let's face it, most Japanese motors don't produce a lot of torque, right? So yeah, and it's funny because I think in the video that you were on with Larry Chen, you talked about how like Noriaro had it on his channel. When Christina had mentioned that she wanted to bring on the show, and she had mentioned Dajiban, it took me back to when I was like in, I don't know, high school, because I watched an old, like, it might have been a best motoring or option video where they actually featured it, and it caught me off guard because I'm used to seeing Skylines and RX-7s and Hondas on these these videos, these popular videos that were in the 90s on VHS, and then I saw one with Dajiban, and I'm like, what the hell is that? So it kind of took me back. So it's kind of cool. It's like there's someone still doing that stuff because you rarely see them out.
Yeah.
Out here.
Really
So it's kind of cool to see that. I think even Larry Chen said it was like something that was Americanized that turned Japanese, and then Japanese it came back to America because you're living it here in America. So you're right. It's got both identities.
Yeah.
Right. And going back to the top heavy thing, it looks so ridiculous when you watch these videos, or when you even think about the notion of it, going sideways or going around the track. But in reality, most of the weight is down. It's a frame, and then the actual part, the shell, is relatively not that heavy.
Yeah.
So
and it is lowered too. You can tell that the suspension's been dropped a bit on these things. So
so
that
the whole
helps.
center of gravity brought down lower. So
what is the approximate weight on yours or in general?
a pig. That's
4,000 pounds, 4,500.
I think it's like 45.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, that was a good guess. I
Yeah,
said
that was
4,500.
Pretty good guess.
And
Right in
what
there.
about horsepower? What approximately? What?
Not
Well,
enough.
yeah, I was gonna say
Never enough.
Yours is the 5.9.
With the 5.9, you're looking at like 230
Okay.
horsepower.
But it's a torque you're looking for.
It's
right?
a
Yeah.
good low end
Yeah,
torquey motor, and it's a popular motor with the Magnum. If you really want to dive into it, which I haven't had the chance yet, there's a lot of go fast parts for that motor. There's a lot of good aftermarket support because it does share the motor with the Dodge Ram truck. I think the Dakota ran it as well. So during the mid to late 90s, the Magnum
And
was
fairly reliable motor
it's a
too.
stout motor.
Has anybody done a Hellcat swap?
See, people always ask that. Yeah, just do a Hellcat. I think space is the issue.
Sure.
It's a van, so the setup of the motor is really interesting. Where you open the hood, you see the front half of the motor. There's a lot of good room, right? But then the bulk of the motor is behind the doghouse cover.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you're hugging the transtone, aren't you?
pretty much,
Yeah. So, but no one's done it yet that you know of.
Not yet. Not
Okay,
yet.
because not that you need to be the fastest van out there. I'm sure it'd be scary, but why not? I mean, they do it to all kinds of other things. So
Yeah.
Right. I keep in touch with a few of other Dajiban kind of builders here in the States, and there's one guy that did an LS swap.
Oh.
So that's kind of unique. So yeah.
How many guys are here in the U.S. doing it? Guys, gals? How many? Any idea?
Yeah.
A handful, probably, right?
Because I think I've only seen yours, and I know Rory owns one, but
Right.
I don't think I've seen any other ones.
Yeah, I think that's part of the appeal is that there's not too many. And when I first got wind of this, I was doing some typing Dajiban in the USA or whatever, and nothing came up. So I'm like, this needs to
Change.
be
Yeah,
done
yeah.
here.
This needs to
And
happen.
So as I started, finding my van and started building it, I had people reach out to me, and we kind of connected. I joined a few Facebook groups. So I would say there's maybe less than 2 handfuls.
Oh wow.
Wow. Okay.
Of ones that are dedicated to, I think, the whole thing with the style, with the mods and that kind of stuff.
But it's big in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big. They have
Pretty big
They
thing,
have an event every single year called the D1 Grand Prix. And
For the Dajibans?
yeah,
They have D1 for Dajiban?
yeah,
That's cool.
they
Wow.
do that. So there's one, I call him the Dajiban guru. His name is Abe-san. So he actually has a shop, and all the Dajibans literally go to him, and he'll post about all the different things he's working on. He's like the pioneer of this. So in the article in Road and Track written by a journalist named Sam Smith, he actually went and interviewed him. And it was really cool. He got a picture of Abe-san wearing a Mopar Dodge shirt. And I think the name patch on it said Diane or something. It was super just on point with the vibe he's going, where
I love
it's
it.
just ridiculous. Let's
Yeah.
not take ourselves too seriously,
Yeah.
have fun.
Yeah.
And he's the one that I think pioneered fitting the RS Watanabe wheels on it. He actually started developing parts in terms of lowering springs, brake caliper adapters, those kind of things. So literally he's dedicated to that platform, and they put on an event at an Ibizu circuit every single year, and you see the numbers grow and grow, and I think there's like 30, 40, 50 vans
so
literally just
cool.
going
That's
on
awesome.
track day.
Okay.
Going back to, because you mentioned one of my favorite wheels is the Watanabes.
Yeah, I love those.
How are you guys fitting? Because the bolt pattern is different, right?
Yeah.
So is there a conversion for that to a 5-lug?
So the bolt pattern on our Dodge vans is 5x139.7. So it's a big bolt pattern. So when researching wheels and whatnot too, I really wanted the RS Watanabes. They're pricey as heck. Saved up like 6 months for it. Found a dealer in Sacramento that ordered them for me, and waited and waited and waited. So they have a Dajiban fitment of the RS Watanabe wheels. Found out after 6 months that they can't ship. They're not going to ship them out here. So they all funnel through Abe-san's shop for this fitment. So I found a friend that spoke Japanese, found his number, rang him up. Nicest guy ever. Obviously, the lot got lost in translation or whatnot too, and he was very polite and courteous about it. But long story short, he doesn't ship the wheels overseas, so I had to scrap that idea, and then kind of just pivoted. The whole notion of it is I wanted to be inspired by that, but I also didn't want to try to copy every single thing. Try to put a little
Twist on it.
Twist code.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
even my Instagram name, SoCal Dodgy. Like, how do I incorporate SoCal culture, connecting with local businesses? And I actually found that Rotiform.
Oh.
It makes a very similar style wheel, and you can get them custom with the bolt pattern and the offset that you needed. So I pivoted and contacted them, and they're a SoCal company based out of Compton now, and hit them up, and got some two-piece wheels
Cool.
made.
So you didn't convert your lugs. So you have the stock Dodge lugs,
Right.
and he just has the wheels for that. Did Abe-san say why he wouldn't ship them?
He didn't say why, and I think it's one of those where, I think culturally they're so polite and courteous still, and I didn't want to maybe I need.
I just think
want to
it's-
build that connection in the future.
It's
Yeah,
just so
yeah.
ironic to me because you're using an American vehicle. You put your Japanese parts, but you won't ship any of the Japanese parts for the American vehicle back to the U.S.
Yeah.
I just find that dynamic very interesting.
It could be as simple as it's just a pain, like anytime you get into import, export, and so on. I mean, from an administrative standpoint.
It could be. These tuner guys, I've known quite a few of them. They're kooky guys. They all they base everything off of principle, not just finances. Because what financial responsibility does someone have to fixing one of these up? That's ridiculous.
True.
So I don't think it's a financial thing. It might be something a little bit more I want them to stay here because they're born here. Maybe who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why I ask, because their reasoning is peculiar to me. So.
Throw some Kragers in there
Yeah.
and say, hey, I'll throw some Krager wheels in there.
That takes away the JDM factor for sure.
I forgot to tell you this, but my old neighbor used to import the Dodge vans to Japan.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and I didn't even know it was a thing until I started seeing all these Dodge vans in our parking lot at our condo, and I was like, "What is?" And so then I ended up talking to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I import them over to Japan," and he was like, "I try and do 1 or 2 a month," which surprised me because I thought that was a lot, but. He said he did that for 15 years.
And you see more and more ones that aren't military. I saw a few on his Facebook page recently, and they had a school district, the decals rubbed off.
Oh, that's cool.
And I actually saw another one that was, I don't know if you guys remember the old airport shuttle called Primetime.
Yes.
It was,
Yeah. Oh,
it was
yeah.
maroon burgundy with this white lettering. So it was in that color with the Primetime. Kind of it was obviously faded and whatnot
Yeah.
too. And I'm just like, how did these fans end up?
Adds a little adds character to it.
But I was
It's
just
great.
gonna say, I wonder if they keep it like it's the American patina. You know what I mean?
Right.
I wonder if they keep stuff
Yeah.
like that because of that whole style of the Americanized Dodge.
Dodge.
Yeah, because it seems like everything over there they want to be Americanized, and then over here we want it to be more like Japanese, and so it's
Right.
just funny.
It's different.
Yeah.
Be different than everybody else.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the
Yeah.
head. Is being different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is we're gonna adapt it to become our style. Even the JDM cars that come over here. There's a slew of guys that try to keep it all JDM authentic here, but you're seeing more and more these days. It's a JDM car, but they're putting American parts on. I mean, I have a a Lexus SC300, which might be a Soar in Japan, there is no Japanese parts left on it. Like every part that's in that engine, because it's all high horsepower stuff, it's all built here in the U.S. So it's like there's more U.S. parts on it now than there is Japanese parts, because I wanted to go fast in that car, but I based it off of a JDM type of car. So it's, I think it's especially with the internet, you get the mixing of those cultures. Before, when you only had option magazines and hyper revs and stuff like that for the JDM stuff, people just said, I want to stick to completely JDM. Meanwhile, in Japan, they're all doing like OG East LA lowriders, like hardcore. I mean, they're some of the most killer lowriders in Japan.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. We talked about it in a previous show.
For the Dajiban, I'm curious, is there one model or a body style for in other words, a panel van or windows, or is there a certain style that is really more desirable among that group?
It really depends on personal preference. It came in a passenger configuration with windows, and that was the one I actually wanted, was because, at that time my kids were relatively little. I have 2 kiddos. I think they were like 9 and 7 at that point in time. So I didn't want to shove them in the back of a cargo van, pop out at the school pickup line, and have to answer to law enforcement, right? No, I wanted a passenger one with the full interior.
Okay.
So it did take a little bit longer to find, because the ones that were more easily available on Craigslist and whatnot too were the work vans, the panel vans that have no interior, that's just bare metal and whatnot too. And then
Stalker vans.
pretty much the white,
Got it.
Never trust those.
I thought
guys.
those were the FBI vans.
Well,
the surveillance
surveillance
vans,
van,
right? I mean, yeah.
Little radar dome up on the top.
Was it hard to find?
It was.
Really?
It took around 1.5 years.
Oh, wow.
For me, just casually browsing Craigslist here and there to find, because either you find ones that are work vans that had stripped down interior, beat up, or you find the school ones, the school district ones. But oftentimes there was a CNG model, the compressed natural gas model, and I'm like, I don't want that one. I don't mind a rumble and whatnot. And then they have 3 different wheelbases. They have the short, they have the medium, which is the one I have and the one I wanted, because proportionally I like that one the best. And they have the maxi, which is the
extended wheelbase.
the church.
Yeah.
I went to summer camp in those things.
Church camp.
Yeah, that's where the butt sticks out. You can actually
so
see the
wild.
extension on it. It's
The
crazy
rear
looking.
overhang is just like, it's like
out the
an
back.
extra car.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Now, was there a Ferrari touch to this? When I was watching that video last night, I'm like, did I see a Ferrari caliper? I mean, talk about that, because I thought for a second there was like
I caught that too.
a fleeting
Yes,
moment
there
of,
was.
you're
I saw
freaking
it, yeah.
insane here because we're talking American, Japanese, and all of a sudden I see Ferrari.
Right. So all this stuff, like all these little things add to the lore of it. And for me, I think part of the build process was the experience of connecting with people that are crazy enough, or finding people that are crazy enough to try things with me. Obviously, I'm not a fabricator. So I'm like, if I need to fit certain brakes or certain parts, I'm going to need some help. And it took a lot of cold calling. But speaking of the Ferrari brakes, that was something that was featured in the articles, in the videos. And I was like, that's so cool, right? Like, how do you fit the Ferrari brakes like on a van? And the more there's no specs, I was trying to dig up pictures of like, can you just show me the backside so I can see how to fit them or whatnot too. So it's actually just the caliper, because they found that, I think probably Abe-san did a lot of test fitting research or whatnot too, and he found that the caliper actually fits the rotor pretty well.
Okay.
We have to fabricate a bracket for it?
So that's the thing, right? So blindly, I go on eBay, find a Ferrari dismantler out in Michigan, ordered a set of calipers. Calipers came out, so stoked to like test fit them on the car. I had messaged a few of the Dajiban pages I followed, and they're in Japan, so I think there was a language barrier as well too. And one guy said, "Oh, direct fit." Those are his words in the Instagram message.
Wow.
Direct fit. So I was so excited. The package came. It's
gonna be easy.
I pull the car up, pull the wheel off, I'm like, wait a second. These bolts go this way. My stock bolts go this way. I'm like, direct fit? How?
That's definitely a loss in translation there.
Yeah, right?
Like maybe direct fit with Abe-san's bracket or whatnot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So I was like, and then, but I was like, hey, if it's been done somewhere, there's a chance that I'm gonna
Figure
get
it
it
out.
done. And I kid you not, I probably cold called like maybe 10, 12 fabrication shops. Went in person with the brakes. It's like, hey, can you guys?
What kind of reaction did you get when you walked in and said, "This is what I'm thinking about doing"?
It took a lot of explaining.
Yeah, I figured.
It took a lot of
You
explaining.
want to do what to what?
Yeah.
Right.
And you got a what?
And then oftentimes it's one of those things where it's like, I'm a single dad on a limited car fund budget, right? So it's not like I'm gonna be like, here's 30 grand, transform my car,
Make
type
it
of thing,
work.
too. Yeah, so I'm kind of like, this is a small little project, can you guys take this on? And it's one of those things where you realize in life it's almost you're meant to be where you're meant to be. Like you'll find yourself in that place, and I'm a big believer in that. Found a shop down in the OC, and I walked in, and this guy, one-man shop named Christopher Parr, CP Customs. He heard my idea. He's like, I build race cars. I do stuff. I fabricate this kind of stuff. This is the type of project that
It's a challenge he was looking for, right?
Right. So it almost became a passion project for him.
That's cool.
That's great.
Yeah,
What a
that
match.
is great.
So he got it done.
That looks
So,
cool.
did you fit it to the stock rotors? Are the stock rotors pretty large?
Yeah, they're a decent size. They're like 13-ish.
Okay.
And then I literally took the caliper. I took my stock line. I took it to Hoseman and then said, hey, I need a custom line that fits this
So you got braided
caliper.
lines now?
So I got...
That must have made a huge difference in stopping the car
It
or the
did.
truck or
It-
the van, I should
it
say. Sorry.
Car,
Yes,
truck,
because,
van.
I was so inspired by these, when I got the van, I was already running 100 miles an hour. I was like, let's go. Let me take it up to Angela's Crest, whatnot too. On the way down, my foot went to the floor with the brake pedal.
Uh-oh.
Panic, literally, oh my God, this is why they have brakes. So it made a huge difference. It made a huge difference
Yeah.
just in fade resistance. And
Yeah.
whatnot.
So speaking of taking the Angela's Crest, I noticed that you don't have the bench seats. You've got some buckets in there, or some recliners.
Yep.
Do
In
you
Ferrari
s-
red, aren't they? They're kind of Ferrari.
They're red, yeah, they're red,
Ferrari
yeah.
red.
Do you sit high? I mean, you already sit high as it is. Did you try to drop them a little bit, or do you still sit in the same stock height position? And
I still sit pretty high. I think over time I'd like to probably maybe play with it and lower it a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah, cause it's kind of fun sitting, because you're driving a van. It's almost like I'm sitting on top of the van and I'm on top of other cars. So that kind of adds to it. But I think it'll be neat to drop it down a little bit though.
okay.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in summer camp riding in the back of one of those things, we hit a bump and I hit my head
The
on
headliner.
the roof. Yeah, the headliner on that. Actually, I don't think it had a headliner. It was a Navy base summer camp, so it was like
So it's just metal.
Metal.
So that's why you turned out that way,
Just
Gabe.
with the,
Got
just with
it.
the lap belt too.
Yeah.
among other things. Yeah, so
Hey, Luwin, I wanted to ask, Gabe and I worked many years ago. We did a drifting documentary, so I know a little bit about drifting, just enough to be dangerous. But I've seen garbage trucks drift. I've seen semis, without trailers, of course, drift. We've seen drag racing with ambulances in Thailand and so on. So to me, what you're saying makes total sense. It doesn't seem like too out of left field. It's fun. It's interesting. People are going to talk about it. You got a buzz, obviously. What do people say to you when you're at an event and they come over and they're just their heads exploding Dajiban, what is this?
Right. I think that's the exact reaction I get, is that they know what it is. Sometimes they know what it is. And for people that have seen it on the internet, they're excited to see one in person finally. They're like, oh my God, it's here. There's one here. And I love that. I love the joy that it brings to people of all ages. You're talking about kids that are that's kind of cool, or older people. Sometimes I get a lot of, hey, my family used to have one of these vans. I used to ride in one of these vans. And then they open the door and see the interior, and it's like, oh my gosh, it used to look like this. It smells, So it's kind of neat just to see the joy that it brings.
Yeah,
to
the
different people.
last time we were at Anaheim Cars and Coffee Classics,
Mm-hmm.
you brought the van out, and it was great because I remember standing across the street from where it was parked and watching all of the people come up and just look at it and stare, and all of the comments, and it was older people and younger kids. Everybody was just fascinated by the
Yeah.
van. I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, I when Christina told me that she knew somebody with one, I was like, first of all, I hadn't heard that term in decades. But then I was like, wow, someone actually built one here, which makes sense. I get it, but I've never seen one, and I've been everywhere. So I was like, oh, this is really cool. So I was excited. So I'm glad you brought it today, because I was like, man, I really want to see one in person too. So I could see how that would get those reactions at Cars and Coffee and stuff.
You know, one of the things that we were talking about earlier before you showed up, the debate was, okay, it's a Dajiban. Can you do that with a Honda Ban? A Ford Ban?
Chevy Bond.
Chevy Ban. Yeah,
Hasta
or is it
Ban.
just a Dajiban? What are there any rules on that?
So I don't. There shouldn't be any rules.
Okay.
Right. I mean, this is like the car community building cars. There shouldn't be any rules. You build what you like, right? I think Dajiban just kind of was the niche that it kind of fell into, but I would be stoked if someone took an Astro into the Chevy Bar or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, no, I totally agree. But the thing I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that what makes it really special is because the history of how it started. That's really, to me, what really gets us. That's why it's not an Astro van or a Chevy or a Econoline or
Yeah,
whatever.
the military thing's
It's
an
a military
interesting
thing.
connection
no,
for
it is.
sure.
Yeah.
By the way, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. You like how he just gently threw
Why are
that.
you looking at me? Look at the camera.
Because he was going to give me
Yes,
shit.
that's
And
right.
I'm still 10
That
minutes
was
late.
so smooth, CJ.
Did you see how he worked that in?
was
That
very
was so
smooth.
smooth.
See, you just
great.
okay. Do it smooth, but do it to the camera. I've already liked and subscribed to the channel. I've already liked, so you don't need to look at me. Look at the camera. Look at our
No,
viewers.
I'm looking at you because I'm trying to appease you.
Look at our viewers or our listeners who are now clicking away because of the conversation.
Like, what the hell are you
So,
talking about?
Okay. So what were we talking about? I don't even remember anymore.
Next time we'll do it without going off on a
I'll
tangent.
have like a sign. I'll just throw up the sign.
That's what the graphics are for. CJ.
Exactly.
But if you want to make a
I'm
sign
trying to
out
go
of
late
cardboard-
90s here. I figured I just
Right.
So, Luwin, you do, I can tell you got a little bit of Santa Claus going there. It's like you like bringing it out and you like people to come up to you and go, man, could I take a picture with it? Could I take a picture of you in front of it? You must dig that, right? Because you have kids and it probably appeals to you to like sort of have people smile at this, right?
It does. Yeah, I adore my kids, and for me, it's about like looking back in like life and building core memories. They were with me when I went to get the van, and they remember being confused. why is my dad, trying to get this van, right? But as they get older, they, as I'm building it, taking them with me to shops, working on it together at home, getting bucket seats so that way they can have a headrest and not have whiplash sitting in the bench seat and whatnot too. They're like a big part of, I think, the journey and their support. My daughter now she just went off to college. She's a first year, but she does graphic design and she actually designed me t-shirts. She's helped design me, help with logos and that kind
Cool.
of stuff too. So they're involved and they're
So it's a
big
family
part of it.
affair.
Yeah, that's cool.
And just to make you feel better, my kids look at me all the time confused
Right?
when I'm trying to tell them something. So it's a normal thing.
I mean, can you blame them? Have you met their father?
Yeah. Well,
Right.
Well, and speaking of family affair, I mean, this isn't the only cool vehicle that you own. I mean, you have multiple.
I've been-
so
What else is on the roster,
Well,
Luwin?
okay, so wait. Before you get into that, I
Yeah.
just want to know, what did you have or drive or build before the van? Because I want to know what the transition is.
Okay, so I started. I've always loved cars. I didn't grow up in a family of cars. We immigrated here from Hong Kong when I was 5, and my mom and dad just hustled and worked just to support the family. But my mom tells me that when I was like 1 or 2 in Hong Kong, I was already naming different brands, different emblems, seeing different taillights and identifying cars. So I think I've
Wow.
always had it in
Wow.
me to love cars. And my love for cars especially grew in like junior high school when my older sister's friend bought me my first Motor Trend. And from then I literally filled out the $10 a year subscription card, got my mom to write me a check. This is how old I am, dating myself, mailing it in. And oh my gosh, every single month, right?
so
I couldn't-
exciting when you got to
couldn't
know
wait.
it.
And read it cover to cover, could spit back all the 0 to 60s that they had in the back. They literally had would post all the 0 to 60s in the back and whatnot too. So I was really into European cars in the late 90s, like around college. young adult age, I had built up a 99 C class, a W202.
Okay.
And that was my first kind of like full build. This is back in the day when I think you really spent time doing stereo.
I remember those days.
Doing interior. I put a PlayStation 1 in the back shelf where the first aid kit goes. had the Alpine swing out screen and whatnot too. So that was my first build, was a C class. And then went Japanese for a while. Loved I had an S2000 before the kids came. And then after the kids came, had a TSX 6-speed that I had done up. But they were mostly like my daily drivers. The thought of owning multiple cars, it was just wild, right? And then I started thinking, like, how do I play with cars, but on a budget, right? And Craigslist was like the go-to, which is, you know. And so the van was the second project that I did that was outside my daily driver. I actually had a 1990 big body Mercedes 420 SEL that I picked up from a guy that was going to sell it to the junkyard that weekend. And I had always wanted that big body Mercedes, because back in the 80s and 90s, when you saw someone driving that car or sitting in that car, you're like, they've made it.
That was the baller car.
Or they're a drug
car.
dealer. I mean, come on.
It was going to the junkyard?
The guy was going to sell it to the junkyard. Yeah, so I love how like all these have stories. It's not just about, hey, I'm going to go to the dealer and write a check and drive off with a brand new car and that's it. Like all these are like finds. These are like the right connections.
Saves. You saved it. Yeah.
I mean, I drove it from Santa Clarita back home. When I got home, I was like, what's that smell? And I realized I'd been leaking fuel the whole time down.
No.
And I'm just like, how sketchy was that? Man. Right? How
Wow.
sketchy.
Gabe, you have an experience that parallels that, don't you?
Damn, Dan.
I got an elephant memory, right?
What the fuck?
Was it a Mazda?
No, it was my Datsun.
It was your Datsun? Okay.
I bought a Datsun 510 wagon, which I was been chasing for a while, and I was so stoked. The car ran and drive, so my buddy takes me over to go pick it up. It picked up in South Central LA, and we're driving it back to Ventura, and tank was empty. So I was like, of course, well, I'm gonna go fill it up, fill up the tank. We get out of the gas tank. My buddy's videoing it. I've got video of this coming out of the driveway, and the gas is pouring out of the tank because the vent tube was gone. So there was this big open hole, and I had a full tank.
Wow.
And my buddy's videoing, and he calls me, and he's like, dude, I think you might want to pull over. And I pull over, and we're in the middle of South Central LA, and I'm just like, I'm going to drive it home.
Shove a rag in it.
Yeah.
Make a Molotov cocktail.
I had literally nothing, except the title. So I was just like, it'll be fine. It'll get down low enough. By the time I drive to Ventura. And so he's got video of this thing pouring out. He's falling behind me laughing. I was like, I could have exploded, but I made it home just fine, whatever.
Man.
But yeah, wow, Dan.
Wow.
Taking me back. Not only do you have, you bring up bad memories, I missed that car. So I was,
I'm sorry. Double bad memory. Sorry about that.
Anyways,
Sorry to derail things.
Yeah, right.
No, but yeah. So
So how long have you had the van?
the van I've had for 7 years now.
Okay.
7 years now. Yeah.
You're probably always thinking of ways to like improve it, tweak it. Even now?
Yeah, I do, but nothing major. I think I always get asked that a lot too, is what's next for it? What are you going to do next to it? And I'm just like, keep it running.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing when you have a little bit of older
I feel the same way about my
cars,
rotaries.
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Just keep them running.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite mod that you've done to that van?
I would say the brakes.
Okay.
Yeah, the wheels and brakes, because they were such a, I mean, it's like a year. It took a year plus just to like fit those to the car. Yeah.
And they're cool. I mean,
Yeah,
they
they
look.
are.
I mean, your eyes catch it.
Absolutely.
I did last night when I was watching the video. I'm like, wait, whoa, rewind. Ferrari brake?
Hey, do the chicks dig it?
That-
You mentioned you're single. Is it a shaggin' wagon? I mean, what's going on?
When this van's a
I
rockin'.
get a lot of love from the dudes.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you open up the back and you see bucket seats, I don't
That's
know.
true.
I don't know how much shagging you can get done back there.
I don't know how limber you are. Maybe you never know, because I mean, women. Sometimes women like cars or whatever. And you said you're single. That's why I mentioned that. I was just like, hey, know. So
And these are automatics, right?
These are automatic. Three on the
Yeah.
tree.
3 on the tree.
3 on the
See,
tree.
that's why I mentioned
you
3 on the
nailed
tree.
it. You nailed it,
Yeah,
CJ.
Nailed it. Yeah.
you just got the era wrong.
But it-
because these are 90s, you said 70s. In
Yeah,
our
I know.
open,
I said 70s shag, but because they can carry over in the 90s. And the old porthole, the porthole.
that's
Yeah.
definitely a 70s.
That's a
Definitely
70s
70s.
thing.
It may have crossed over in the 80s, but I don't know.
But then the 3 on the tree. But this is an automatic. I mean, I'm talking a manual 3 on the tree too.
Oh, manual.
That's what I had. My
I don't
70.
think they had that in the 90s.
No. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But my one of my first vans was a 72. Econoline, Ford Econoline van.
You had a creeper
with
van?
3 on the tree. Yeah, but this thing was the shag and the whole thing.
Did you have a mural on the side?
Oh no.
A mural?
Yeah.
Like
no,
a
no,
unicorn or something?
No. It was red with the gold stripes that coming on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, up over the window?
Yeah, go
The
up
bubble
over the
wing?
window.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
How many chicks did you bag in that thing?
Oh man.
Sorry, Beth.
My mom's around still. She listens to this.
Wait, how old were you when you had this?
Oh God, I was I was in high school, so 17, 18. That was one of
wow.
my first.
What's that movie with that? What was it? The dude that drove the minivan. Was it Ridgemont High?
Oh,
Was it
Fast
him?
Times at Ridgemont High.
Didn't he drive a van?
Spicoli, yeah. They come out of the van and all the pot smoke.
That was
yeah.
you.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was totally me.
It makes sense
Yeah.
now why Nirvana is one of your
That's
driving
it,
bands.
yeah.
Okay, he just got his nickname, Gabe Spicoli. He's
Spicoli.
Oh,
You're
God.
Spicoli.
Spicoli Ward.
I
Spicoli
think
Ward.
we've gotten off track. here.
Yeah, we
You
have.
think so?
Yeah.
This time I don't mind.
Yeah.
I knew
Spicoli Ward,
I should
I
bring
love
up
it.
my history, my sordid past.
Gabe, we're going to need a new lower third.
I feel like everybody's got an interesting van story.
Yeah.
See, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I actually connected with a group called Van Culture, and they're mostly known for their bagged Siennas and
Their page is huge.
and they have a big following. You're talking about guys and gals that used to be big in the car modification tuner scene, and now they're older with families. It's like, how do you still capture that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think they look at their minivans and be like, oh, let's do stuff with that.
Yeah.
Well, I still drive. We have a 2010 Honda Odyssey. I drive it all the time, and I actually
Yeah,
love
but it's
driving
stock.
the thing.
You're a van guy.
I
You're a
like
van
driving.
guy.
Let's put on airbags and we'll talk.
No, I don't. Beth won't go for that one. I
You'd
don't
be
think.
proud to know I'm aspiring to be a van guy. I'm saving for a van right now.
What kind of van?
Odyssey. I'm totally.
Honda Odyssey's pretty-
I'm sold
pretty
on the
badass.
Odyssey.
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
I looked at the Toyotas and it's like I need a gear hauler. You know,
Yeah.
I got like a ton of production gear and it's like I need a van. There's no other way to do it.
And I hear they're really popular right now. People are looking for these older Honda Odysseys.
They are.
I mean, I've had people walk up to me at the gas station and say, "Hey, look, if you ever want to sell it?" You know,
I'm glad to hear that and see that. I see it too, because I feel like the SUV kind of killed the whole van, the van
God,
life.
SUVs.
And look,
gag.
I like the SUVs for obviously for the utility reasons. It's like part truck, part van, part whatever. But it's really, really hard to beat a van.
Yeah.
It's really hard
Right.
for the functionality, and then obviously the aftermarket tuner side of it is pretty cool too.
Yeah.
You're not doing that with SUVs. I mean, you could, but it's kind of
Kinda
ridiculous.
pointless.
well,
Yeah.
now I'm jealous because after hearing, I mean, now I want to put Ferrari brakes on my Honda.
yeah.
Let's just lower
I got to
it,
keep
dude.
up.
Yeah.
Well, there's a tuner named Bizimoto.
Oh yeah.
He has the 1,000 horsepower Odyssey.
Oh,
Like you're
geez.
Yeah.
looking like blown. You're looking.
Wow.
The grill is gone because his intercooler is too big. It's just like you see that. Just the tires are going up in smoke. I'm just.
CJ,
Whoa.
CJ, forget
Yeah.
building that Corvair in the back there. Let's build your
Yeah.
Odyssey.
Yeah.
I guarantee you we'll get more likes. Sorry, Corvair
I mean,
guys.
really.
You know it's true.
They have nice power, just stock.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
got
they really
it's got a
do.
K series motor in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's the new.
You don't have to
Chevy,
do a K swap.
It's
It is
like
a
the
K
new Chevy
swap.
small block for tuner guys. It's like
could
it's
be
a cheap horsepower
the new
car.
West of Tulsa touring van.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With like a wrap on it.
Right?
West of
You
Tulsa
definitely
wrap.
gonna need the airbags because I'm not cruising in nothing without, if it's
right?
not lowered.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
CJ, I
I'm
want the
glad you said
mural
that.
though. I want the mural. I want the West of Tulsa mural on the side with all of us.
You know,
right?
when we do our road trip,
He's been
we're going to
talking
take
about
the
this for a
minivan,
long
we're going to
time.
put West of Tulsa on it, and we're going to go.
I feel
Special-
like this is going to
special
turn
livery.
into National Lampoon's Vacation, and you're going to be Clark.
And I'll be Chevy Chase. That's right.
Oh boy.
I'm going to be the dead grandmother on the roof. I mean, I think I am the oldest. So.
I'll be cousin Eddie. Shitter's full.
Shitter's full.
I'll follow along the side in my 240.
You didn't think it was going to get to this, did you?
No, yeah.
Hey, this is what bands do. It brings up
They
memories.
bring people
right.
together.
Okay, so getting back to that,
Yeah.
you said and Christina said, when you bring this out to Cars and Coffee or to events, people react. They have a reaction to it, usually from their childhood or from yesteryear or whatever. And that obviously you like that. It brings people, gives them something to joy, but at any age, right? Mm-hmm. So it seems like there's a side to you that's about that. There's a human connection. This is not just about cars. This is not just about your van. You're trying to, I don't know what it is, connect with people and brings some joy to people or spark some kind of emotions out of people. That seems like a mission of yours.
Yeah, people are what it's about for me. Like when I think about the car community, and I love the car community here in Southern California. It's huge, but it's also small and intimate. You go to different car meets and you see familiar faces and whatnot. So for me, it's about people. The cars are really cool, but they're secondary to me. I love connecting with people. I work in community mental health for a career. So, it's about people. But there's also a part of me that's kind of introverted where when I work on my car by myself or with my son, it's kind of nice because it's like a nice decompression and escape from having to deal with people problems. And the heaviness of that. So
Right.
it's kind of nice to kind of have both sides where there is such a beautiful, opportunity for connection, but also you can retreat and just enjoy the solitude and,
So it'd be fair to say you have an emotional connection with your van. It's not just a piece of machinery. Like you're connected with it, right? Like you think about it. I don't know if you've given it a name. Some people name their cars. I don't know.
Yeah, I've never been one to name my cars, but I do have like a particular attachment to it. Like particular because it brings me joy. I drove it out here and I was just like, this is awesome to cruise out to Ventura.
It's a fine day to cruise to
Yeah, on a
Ventura.
beautiful sunny day. I didn't even turn on the air. I just cracked my window. And,
You have air in the van?
and that's the thing too. Is I think when when you have kiddos, you think I care about their comfort. I don't want them just rolling around sweating.
They'll hate. They wouldn't want to be in it if it was
seriously.
And you want them to be in it and enjoy it.
Well, yeah, and watching that video, you have those comfort things that
Yeah.
you added, like your backup camera.
Yeah, I was having my son get out of the car to spot me because I was like, this is my first time owning something this big. I haven't really familiarized with how far it goes and whatnot too. So I was literally having my kids. They're 7 years old. We'd be in downtown LA in the sketchy area, trying to get to Little Tokyo. I'll be like, hey, we found a parking space that looks big enough. Can you hop on real quick? I would look him in the mirror, and he's just kind of and I'm like, you know what? Let me put a backup camera.
But do you have the beeper is what I want to know. You got to have the beeper.
I don't have the beeper.
You need the beeper, man.
Maybe like a garbage truck beeper.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, totally.
That's fair enough because there's 75 blind spots in that thing, I would imagine.
Oh, gosh, it's huge. The blind spot. Yeah, it's just long. It's just long. So I make sure to.
So
give myself
if
enough
somebody
space.
who's been listening to this and they go, this sounds cool. I want to try and do this. I mean, where any advice on where somebody should start with this process?
And I get that a lot. I get a lot of messages. Hey, I want to build a Dajiban. Where do I start? What do I look for? And I love that. I'm not one to gatekeep. The whole reason why I was motivated to do this was because I didn't find a lot of information. So I want to share my experience as I can. Things like wheel specs. In the car community, sometimes people like to gatekeep the wheel specs. They're like, my fitment's awesome. You guys figure it out yourself. I'll be like, here, these exact numbers.
Yeah,
This is what you need if you want to do this. But I usually start off with telling people, what do you guys want? Do you want an interior? Definitely get a V8 if you can. And then start looking for vans.
Any year?
Yeah, 94 to 2003 is the
Wow,
preferable.
2003.
2003. 94 to 97, that's the generation I wanted. That's pre-facelift because it has a stubbier nose and it has the old school dash. So that dash layout with the circular gauges dates back to the 70s.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And then in 98, they elongated the nose for safety, and then they put the more modern Dodge Ram dash on it with more plasticky.
Take it the 94s and or those are the harder ones to get.
94 to 97. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're challenge not impossible, but they are a little bit more scarce.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I would think in other parts of the country you get the rust factor too, which is always tough because domestic cars of that period aren't known for their rust resistance, as I recall.
Yeah, especially with the long roof. I mean,
Yeah.
you're exposing that to the sun.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like people always thought they put their minivan or their van into the garage.
Oh, that just gave me an idea.
Can it fit in a garage, a full-size van? I
it's
mean,
like, yeah.
geez.
So they're outside all the time.
gotta have a good
especially out
sized
in the snow
garage.
and- yeah.
I wonder if anybody has done like a rat rod version of these vans. If you could take a rusted one up, cut one up.
Oh, yeah.
That'd
There
be
you go.
sick.
That'd be cool.
sick.
Uh-oh.
There
I
you
see.
go.
I see
You could
Gabe's
see
mind is
one in the
turning.
garage soon, CJ. in the West of Tulsa garage.
This
huh?
might be like a van road trip group.
There you go.
Right?
You know, in a
I'll
few
take
months
my
if we're
van.
not-
CJ
Christina
can
made
take
it clear
his
she won't
van.
go in a van with
Yeah,
us.
I'll go in the van with Luwin. His van is cool,
Yeah.
Only because we can stop with those damn Ferrari.
right?
I would go just because he's got air, air matters.
Air matters for sure.
So they go out and they find the van. So they find the van that they want in the years you talked about, and then it's just kind of personal taste and what they want to add, subtract, all that stuff.
Yeah, and I will tell them, I get a lot of questions on how to lower it. And even lowering it was a whole different fiasco in itself. Like, it was my first time dealing with leaf springs. I was so used to just ordering
Is it
a
front
set
and
of-
rear leaf springs?
No, just rear leaf springs.
And what's the front torsion bar or?
It's a torsion, yeah, with the independent. Sorry, with the coil spring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was my first experience with leaf springs. I'm like, people are saying you can get drop shackles, you can flip it and that kind of stuff too. I didn't want to slam it because, here in LA, it's really hard to drive around in a slam
I'm going to
car.
scrape it all the time.
Right, so
Nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Well, okay.
if it's not making noise, it's not low enough, right? No, but once again, it's connecting with the right people, the right shop. Found a leaf spring shop in La Puente, and they actually were able to walk me through the process of how they would lower it, and they were able to take apart the whole leaf pack and de-arch each individual leaf, so you get a nice,
Wow.
significant,
A little
drop.
flatter.
So there are no parts to do. It's a complete custom deal when you're lowering one of these things.
Right. No one really makes a kit for your car.
Yeah.
I think if you had a Dakota, people might be like, oh, there's some lowering, kits for the Dakota or whatnot too. So it's about finding what works for you and also what might fit and then
Try it.
Try
and-
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because that was the process you went through.
right.
Just
A lot of trial and
a
error.
lot of try.
A
Yeah,
lot of
call
trial
out
and
phone
error.
calls and okay.
Is this what you do through the SoCal Daji or Instagram? For do you offer? I mean, this kind of community, is it through your thing, or are you doing it through Facebook groups,
It's
or how?
mostly through that page. It's I have a nice little modest following. I think people like it enough because it's so quirky and whatnot too. And then the people that are interested in building one, they'll reach out.
So how do people reach you? You have a website? What is it? What's your Instagram?
Just
or what?
Instagram,
Social?
SoCal Daji.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Do you have a lot of people asking? I mean, how often do you get people asking you how to build these, or advice, or?
Pretty regularly. Yeah,
Really?
I think people are drawn to it because it seems sort of accessible. It's like a van that we've all watched growing up. So and they're not horribly expensive to come by. So it feels like the price of entry is not that steep. So
Yeah.
you'd be surprised. I was telling my son the other day, I was going through my message request. I didn't even know I had a message request. And I had messages from 2021, 2022. And I'm like, oh, I feel so bad. I totally never got back to them.
He's blowing
And
me
they
off.
were, so, they were excited. So I was like, let me respond to these.
Oh, that's fine.
How much would someone expect to pay for one of these vans to pick one up?
For a good condition, like passenger one, I would probably say between maybe 5 to 8.
Really?
Yeah, they've kind of gone up in value because there are multiple demographics of people that want these type of vans. You have your surfers that want a van to throw their surfboard in. And especially during the pandemic, you had the van life.
Yeah.
People want vans
right.
to
Yeah.
convert and take on
Yeah,
road trips
yeah.
and escape.
That's
and,
a huge
and whatnot
thing.
too. So
Sure.
yeah, you have multiple demographics competing for the same van.
Wow.
So
That's pretty cool.
It does get challenging.
Church youth groups.
Do you get a lot of comments though about the whole stalker van thing? Like, do people make fun of you, or is that a thing for your style?
It's part of the explanation, right? When they hear oh, you have a Dodge full-size van? Like, raised eyebrow. Like, for what? For what? You know? So, yeah.
I'm a cop, by the way.
You could diffuse that by saying, "I have windows, though." I mean,
Right?
on a panel,
Yeah.
I get that, but on Windows, stalkers aren't getting ones with windows.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, Gabe.
I think they are.
I just it just popped in my head. I know my build. I want to get one of these vans. I'm going to put a Cummins in it. It'll be impossible, and I want to do it, man.
Actually, you know what? Because you can get the i6 Cummins.
Oh, the small one.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Even the i4 maybe.
How badass would that be?
That would
Having
be
a
pretty sick.
diesel
That would be sick.
Dajiban.
Right.
Diesel. Has anyone done that?
No, not that I've seen.
No one in
Dan-
Japan?
Would you put
Dan
stacks
first
on it?
build.
Smokestacks.
Stacks?
You picked a hell of
The
a first build.
non-car guy over
Yeah.
here talking about.
Well, I'm not gonna do the fabrication myself. I'll take it to Steve and get one of his guys to do it. Right?
Yeah, you'll be spending more in fabrication than you will on the car.
Oh no, it completely wouldn't fit. I mean, it would be the wrong thing to put in, but that's what's so cool.
No, there is
about
no
it.
wrong thing to put in.
Yeah.
There is no wrong thing.
Well,
You just put something in it.
That's what would be cool about it.
But if you start with like what, a 6-cylinder one or whatever, maybe they never made those with the 4-cylinder, right?
No, just the V6.
So if you did the V6 one, which is I would imagine maybe cheaper than easier to get than the Magnum ones, right? So maybe
Tear
that could
it
be-
out and
I could see you
put
in one of those.
Put a
Dan.
Cummins, man.
I could see you in one of those. Just as much I could see you in an Odyssey. It's like the alter ego, the young Dan,
Yes.
right? The motocross Dan. So
Yeah,
Dan used to ride
Motocross,
motocross.
Yeah.
yes.
But you would never know because he drives a Toyota Corolla.
Right,
He doesn't
yeah.
really talk. But I could see maybe Dan with like long hair. I remember Dan used to have a mustache, like
Mustache,
this, like little
long
like
hair. Yep.
mustache.
Yep. That
So
was it.
maybe Dan grows the mustache back,
Yeah.
gets the van, puts the Cummins in, starts.
Or he just puts the mustache on when he's going to drive the van. It takes it off.
a
when
fake
it's
mustache?
Odyssey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I could say Luwin is my inspiration. Like I heard about
Hey.
this and I wanted to do something. Luwin said, "Do your own thing." So that'd be my thing.
There's no wrong answer.
That's
A
right.
diesel Dajiban.
And it's functional because you need the space to haul your gear.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, I think that's a win-win. I don't know if it'll fit in your garage, but hey,
Right.
Oh man, I'm really intrigued by that idea. You're
Just
starting
wait.
gears turning here, Luwin.
Just wait till you go out to the parking lot and check it out.
I haven't even seen your
You're gonna
van. I
fall
got to
in
go out and
love.
see your van. Yeah, that's cool.
how much did you drop the van by? How much did you lower it by?
It was a good, I want to say like 4 inches.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's a good drop.
It's a good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
It's a good job. It's like a nice compromise. It's like I still have a little bit of gap, compliance, and
Yeah.
it's not. I have to slant, but not like,
You're
can't
not
get over
scraping
anything.
and
What size wheels did you put on there?
16 by 8 and 16 by 9.5.
9.5 in the rear.
Yeah, nice
Dang,
fat ones.
yeah.
In there.
that's cool.
Yeah, so they're fun.
I was surprised you could get that wide of a wheel in there.
Yeah.
Oh.
So they're fun.
Any modifications to get those big wheels in there, big tires, wheels in there?
No,
They fit.
Yeah, because when you order them, I did measurements and
For the offset?
Yeah, and they actually Rotoform is really neat in that when they found out I was running Ferrari brakes, they wouldn't let me order until I sent them measurements of the brakes. So make sure
To
that
clear the
they-
brake caliper.
So
Oh, okay.
that attention and detail was really nice.
That is nice. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I know you touched on it a little while ago. You said you're in the business of mental health. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I currently am the clinical director of a program with an agency called Sycamores. Our program is called Mobile Crisis Outreach Team. So my teams respond in person to calls to the suicide and crisis mental health line. So we cover a lot of ground. We cover most of LA County, and then we have a sister program in Riverside County that covers all of Riverside County. So we're the more, I would say, like reactive end of the crisis spectrum, where people are calling us because they need help because they're feeling like hurting themselves, or we have family members that might be calling because they're
Seeing signs or something.
yeah, or their loved ones are having a psychotic break or whatnot too. So yeah, my teams go out and respond to that and support them, and we hospitalize if we need to, just to make sure we keep them safe. So it's really emotionally intense at times, but it's also really rewarding.
Well, and over the last 10 years, mental health really has changed in terms of talking about it, getting help, inspiring people to go out and get help when they need it. And watching the NFL this year, as I'm a big football guy, it would seem like
Sorry about your Bills.
they
by
were
the way.
behind. Don't even bring it up. Always next year, right? How many times have I heard that? But yeah, there was a lot of mental health advertising throughout the NFL this year, and I think it's a very good thing.
That's one thing with the new generation now. It's very, I notice young people today, they are very open about it. Whereas in our generation, even Gabe's generation, Christina's, it was sort of like on the DL. You didn't really talk about that. So I think it's a healthy thing. It's great.
Mm-hmm. Are you, do you go out into the field with them, or you're supervising? Or?
Yeah, sometimes I do.
Okay.
And I love it. Like, I look for any chance I get to cover and go out in the field. I mean, I started in the field. I've been in this field of work for like 18 years. I used to work with at-risk foster youth, so I love the direct contact still with individuals. So I try to go out as much as I can.
Have you ever gotten in the field with the Dajiban?
I haven't, so we go out in our agency vehicles, just in case we do have to transport. But I have driven my Dajiban in the past to work, and it's a good talking piece, especially when you're dealing with maybe someone who is a little bit more closed off. And just showing up.
them up.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
if I was suicidal and I saw you pull up, I'm like, what? I mean, at least it would give me a second to like stop thinking about killing myself, and then maybe I was like, because you show up and it's like, how could you be mad at that? It's like, here's this man. What's up?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's cool.
You're such a car guy, Gabe. You're such a car guy.
Sorry.
Now Gabe's got your Dajiban actually saving lives. I like it.
Dude, put a little, emergency, put the light bar on there, dude. You're just saving lives.
LAPD would love it.
One Dajiban at a time.
Right. No, and going back to what Dan was sharing, there's a lot more conversation about it these days, and the good thing is there's also more resources. Just a few years ago, they have a national hotline now, 988. In the past, they have all these different, suicide, mental health crisis hotlines. But when you're in crisis, are you going to remember a 7-digit number?
Right,
So
right.
finally, they're like, hey, let's give a number that's as easy to remember as 911.
Yeah.
Or if it's mental health related, 988. So
Is 988, is that a governmental or as a state sponsored thing that's not going to like a private organization?
So it's nationwide, and then what they do is they actually route the calls to your nearest call center, and then if you need to escalate it to an in-person evaluation, they'll make the connection with your local response teams.
And those response teams, are those at the state level or the city level? Are those governmental
Yeah,
agencies?
they're county level.
They're county,
Okay.
right?
County level.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know.
Well,
we did
one
stuff
of the
like
things
that.
I like that over the last 10 years, again, I think a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of, but, and you might have a better sense of this, how many police departments have actually started really working closely with mental health experts when they go on certain calls.
Mm-hmm.
They'll actually take them with them. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't something that used to happen. It was that they would leave it up to the cop to be the one who's supposed to, deal with the mental health of whoever they're dealing with.
Right.
That's changed.
Yeah, that's changed. So a lot of individual police departments have their own mental health unit where they pair up a uniformed officer for safety with the clinician.
Right.
Because they're finding that, 2 officers responding to a mental health call might not be the most appropriate when you have a mental health clinician. The thing with those, I hope it continues to grow, because I'm finding that a lot of those teams only operate during business hours, Monday to Friday. And you and I both know that mental health crises don't discriminate at what time of day or what,
Yeah.
Right.
or whatnot
Yeah.
too. So.
That's a good point. Well, all right. We're thinking about minivans.
Not minivans.
Vans.
No.
Vans.
No, you
Vans.
can, but you
Not
can
mini.
still do the minivan. You
Minivan
can do
or
this on a
full size,
minivan,
yeah.
right?
You could do, you could.
See, I got permission, so I can do this. I can
We
stick
can
Ferrari brakes.
Ferrari brakes, yeah.
Yeah, on the Honda minivan,
Yeah.
on my Odyssey.
You got a good candidate there, CJ.
That way, Christina would be willing to ride with me.
We should put it. Comment below if you think CJ should build this minivan or his Corvair.
Yeah.
Because I know you're not going to build your Porsche. Because your Porsche is whatever.
Your Porsche's great.
Yeah.
It's
Porsche's
all right.
dialed
It's
in.
happy.
Yeah.
That's valid.
But if you were going to build something, it would be that's in your possession right now. It's going to either be your minivan or your Corvair, unless you buy some other car that you don't know about.
I can tell you this. I mean, when it comes to the minivan, both my daughters learned to drive on it and beat the shit out of it.
And it still runs.
So,
So-
it's,
and it
it's
still
perfect.
runs.
So it's perfect for
It's
a build.
half Bondo.
It's perfect for a
Oh
build.
my goodness.
Emotional connection. Emotional.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah,
That's
for
it.
sure.
Yeah.
If you have any interest in Swedish cars, I'm a big fan of Saabs.
yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
talk
Thing
about
I
that
have.
for a second.
That's actually how I met Luwin, was at a wagon meet at Auto Conduct.
Wait, do you
right?
still
Back in the
have-
day.
I still have my Saab. That's like a forever car to me.
Which one?
Yeah.
Which one do you
So I
have?
have it's a unicorn.
It's so beautiful.
During the pandemic, once again, I was on Craigslist casually just typing in stuff I always thought was cool.
Was it casual though?
Sounds very calculated to me.
That's true, huh?
Yeah, I'm casual on Marketplace every night too.
Yeah. No, that's what you got. That's what we tell ourselves. It's a great deal. It's like, fell in our lap.
Stumbled across it.
Yeah. I typed in Saab, and it's a 2005 Saab 9.5 Aero wagon.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh,
in
wow. That
manual.
is rare.
Oh,
In
manual.
So I was like,
Dang.
oh my gosh. And then I saw that it was one city over. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to go look at it now, right? So I went and looked at it. It was during the pandemic. So he literally tossed me the keys, was like, take it out. And then I took it out, had my OBD2 scanner, made sure there weren't any like major
So you stole the car
issues
from
with
him?
it.
Right?
I'm just kidding. No, but even that was fun. Like that was such an adventure too. Like looking up, the build specs, the build numbers of Saabs to kind of figure out how many of these did they make. They made 2 in my spec and color for that year.
Wow.
Oh,
Is
wow.
it now? Is this the
I didn't
G?
realize that.
Is this the
Wow.
GM based Luwin, or this is
So it's kinda
a
like
Swedish car?
It's like half. It was in that half. The generation after that, like the 9.3, they call it the NG new generation. That's mostly GM.
Okay.
This one does have some GM parts, but also
So it looks more like a Saab, not like a rebadged Tahoe or something. It's,
correct.
It's,
Yeah, this is
okay.
like mostly Saab.
What motor's in
yeah.
that?
It's a 2.3 4-cylinder turbo,
Okay.
Cool.
On 5-speed or 6-speed?
5-speed.
5-speed. Okay.
Yeah, so stock was 250. Mine's a stage 3 tune with bolt-ons, making probably around like 320.
Oh,
So it's a
nice.
good,
That must scoot a
healthy-
little bit.
for the mid-range. So Saab back then, their marketing was from like 30 to 70, we can beat a 911 turbo. So that was their claim to fame. And for those that have driven Saabs, like they all know, like from like 0 to 30, there's not much guts, and then boom, the mid-range hits, and you're
Kicks
having
in.
fun.
Wow.
You're having fun.
Well, Beth had one. She had
A
a
Saab?
she had a 900 turbo. Yeah, she had it when we lived in Phoenix, and she loved it. Of course, she has
Yeah.
a steering wheel fetish. I think that's
Yeah,
what she
she
loves more
does.
than anything
She
else. But yeah, she loved that car. The problem is I was in the shop every 2 weeks. That was my only problem with that car. I loved it, looked good, but there was always something
Broke
wrong
down a
with it.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've had previous guests on here that, different car collectors, and we talk about the different kinds of car collectors, whether, you might be a Chevy guy, a Ford guy, a Citroen guy, Porsche guy,
Or gal.
Jaguar guys. We know that those guys are
Yep.
very eccentric
Yeah.
and unusual. What are the Saab guys like? Guys and girls. What are they like?
Give us the Saab
gentle.
personality.
Yeah, be gentle with
They're
yourself.
very down to earth. If you want to go stereotype, right? They're the college professor,
Yeah.
Okay.
accountant, very like safe, middle of the road, kind of person. But I found that the community is really just down to earth and really nice people.
Yeah.
Really helpful. I've always thought they were cool, and I didn't really quite get it until having one. And my son actually turned 16 last year, and I got him a 2009 3 hatchback stick shift. So now we have like his and
Matching,
his.
yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
he's like a 3/4 of mine, and he's been working on his own Saab. And we have these conversations of like, wow, like Saabs are like so weird, but like so cool and over engineered, and you don't quite get it until you're in one,
Yeah.
you own one, and then it clicks. It's just like
They are cool. They are
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I always liked the
Yeah.
Saab.
My very limited interaction with Saab owners was, they knew the marketing campaign very well, because it always says that, it's born from jets. I'm like, and
Wow.
I mean, 'cause I always thought Saabs were good-looking cars. I always thought that. Never knew anything about it. Didn't know how fast they were. Whatever. Was never really interested. But I rarely ran into a Saab owner. And I've heard the stories about maintenance and all that stuff or whatever. But
And I think some of the Saabs, just from my experience, if you got Saab was a hit or miss car, because if you got a Saab that was perfect, you would never break down. It was bulletproof. It was like a tank. Nothing would ever go wrong
I have
with
yet
it.
to hear that about a Saab.
Yeah. No. There are people who have them that really have never had a problem with a Saab. Then you get the kind we had, where it was in the shop every other week.
Well,
Gives
like
you
most
more
people
pro-
had that. There was a lot of people that were in that. If there was somebody who had a perfect Saab that never broke down, we should have them on the show, because they're probably unicorns themselves.
Exactly.
or they're liars.
They're liars. Yeah, there you go.
I might go with that one. I might go with that. Our Saab owners, liars.
Well, they stopped selling in the U.S. when?
In
Early-
2011.
I thought they
Okay,
went.
that-
I thought they went out of business, not just the U.S. Right?
No,
They're-
they stopped selling, I think, in the U.S.
Do they
stopped
still
selling-
exist?
They still exist.
Yeah.
I think they do.
Didn't the
have a-
Chinese buy them? Like some Chinese company bought Geely or someone bought them?
I
or
think there's financing from Chinese, but from what I understand, the Saab as a company, they still have like military contracts and.
oh,
and that
okay.
kind of
But they
stuff
don't make
too.
passenger
They went
cars
back to
anymore.
jets.
No more passenger
No more
cars.
passenger
Okay.
cars.
I have a cool story about his wagon, though. Recently, we went to the Brecky Car Club show. It was our 5-year anniversary, so they had this massive show. And he came out with his son. They brought both cars and they parked. Like, you were right in the middle of it, too. You were, like, right there. But it was so cute because I saw one of my random buddies and we were talking and he was like, so what's your favorite car for today? I'm like, oh, I'm not sure. This is what we were talking. I was like, what about you? What's your favorite? And he obviously didn't know that I knew Luwin. We were standing across from his car and he was like, it's that Saab wagon right there. Like, he was so enthralled with it. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cute. I can't wait to tell Luwin that, like, so one of these random people actually think that his car was the coolest car out of all the cars that were there. There was Lambos, Porsches, Ferrari. There was all kinds of cars there, but
That's
his
funny.
wagon
Well, you
was
don't
the
see the
one.
Saabs.
No.
Well, it's a good thing that Helm's not here anymore because Helm loves wagons, but loves Saabs. He'd be
Yeah.
all over
Yeah.
you right now. So if he watches this show, he might be hitting you up on Instagram.
Well, hopefully he liked and subscribed.
yeah. Hey, can we have you back on the show?
Yeah.
You have to do it like this.
How long have you had the Saab?
I've had the Saab for 4 years.
Okay, and that was your first Saab, and
My first Saab.
have you had any problems with it?
Yeah, for sure. I've made good friends with the Saab mechanic. He's on my speed dial. His name is Hung. He's like, so I call him. I'll be like, hey, like, it's making this noise. I'm gonna describe it.
Can you describe what kind of the problems were? I'm curious to know what the problems are with the Saabs.
The problems are pretty much standard across the board, like in terms of like the coil pack going out. And instead of having individual coil packs, they have a whole cassette. People carry a spare. They're known
Wow.
to go out ever so
Really?
often, so they can actually carry a spare one in their car, things like that. And it's an older car, so typical things like vacuum hoses need replacing, coolant hoses need replacing. So nothing that's been catastrophic or out of the norm. When it says problems, I expect these things from a 2005 car.
Right.
If I had time to overhaul all the hoses, I would, or just wait until they go out and then replace them. But that's not out of the ordinary of what you would expect from that car. So I wouldn't say my Saab experience is like all tainted and they get a bad rep. These are just.
And it helps that you've got one that's so rare. I would imagine you probably had a little more patience for that car just because of what it is.
Right.
Than if you just had some regular old Saab that you were dropping big money into.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think all Saabs are pretty rare
Yeah.
these days.
These
though.
days,
Just like-
yeah.
Yeah. Saab wagon. I mean,
That's
Yeah,
rare.
I don't think
that's
I've ever
definitely
seen one in
rare.
person.
That's
And what year was
definitely
that
rare.
one again?
It's a 05.
That's right, 05.
Yeah, it's funny because my wagon's an '05 and my Legacy has the exact same horsepower too. It's tuned at 320. So we might have to do like a little lineup or
wagon.
something.
Ooh.
Wagon run.
Light it up.
Sounds like a challenge
But
right
actually,
there.
I've driven in your car. He took me for a ride in his car one night. That car is fast. It felt fast, even as a passenger. Usually, like when you're driving.
Did it feel like a jet?
Possibly.
Right.
Because I don't even if you know this or not. They're born from jets.
That's right.
And there are touches in the interior that are aviation inspired.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
example, like things I had never really understood until you get one and you're like, this is cool. Like how the dashboard and how the center, like everything's like angled towards the driver. Even the dome, the little light is like a airplane light. It's like circular, it swivels, and then the fasten seatbelt sign, the chime and everything is like
Is your ignition in the center there by the brake?
the keys right here.
Right?
Oh, that's
in
cool.
the
Yeah.
middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's very very
So it's a
Swedish.
unique experience.
it's a very unique experience, and you see how much the engineers that designed and built this car, I think, really had a passion for what they did. Like it all makes sense when you have it and you start understanding it.
Sure. I mean, it sounds like you're ready to be a Rotary owner because that sounds like something I have to deal with.
He's conditioned.
Yeah.
I think for me, I do research, but for me it's like when I go in, I'm like I'm gonna be all in. Like there was a period of time when I was looking for a Crown Vic police interceptor, and I was gonna like make that into like another Japanese kind of inspired thing. Luckily, I didn't go down that rabbit hole yet. My whole thing is kind of like I need to kind of pace myself because I would have all these weird stuff if I had the chance to.
Well, if you do that, let us know. I want to watch that build going on.
I'd like to know how to pace yourself because I haven't.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I like how you threw in yet in there when you were talking.
Maybe.
It's on the roster.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on our show today. We really appreciate it. You brought the van, right?
I brought the van. Yeah, the van. I
I
drove the
haven't
van.
seen it.
out
I didn't
here.
see it.
we're gonna
pull
go
up.
take a look.
We're
Yeah.
going to go take a look at it. So I haven't seen it yet. So other than video,
Yeah.
but no, Luwin, thanks for coming. By the way, I have to admit, I told these guys I didn't know you had a last name. I thought you were like Prince and Madonna. I mean, I just
Cher.
kept everybody
Luwin.
talked about Luwin. I
The
was
Luwin.
like, does he have a last name?
Everybody
My-
just knows Luwin.
My
by Luwin.
performer name.
Yeah. Can you sing? Yeah.
No, I appreciate you guys having me. I think for me, even talking about mental health, I love how the different parts of my life can intersect. There was a time when, I had a T-shirt designed and was able to sell a few and donate it to an organization that supports survivors of sex trafficking.
Oh, wow.
Recently I did a T-shirt for suicide prevention. Was able to post it up on my car page. Seemingly unrelated, but actually got some people that were interested. So I think it's one of those things where it's really neat when the different aspects of life can intersect and you can find connection in those ways.
Do you still do that? Do you still sell the T-shirts?
Not currently, but I'll probably do another run in the future.
Okay, I was about to say if you are, and let everybody know.
I mean, car people are
Plug
still
away.
people.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes, that's
and
right.
everybody's got their stories.
Yeah.
They've got their things
Yeah.
going on. So
Absolutely.
if you're able to help anyone in your community, that I feel like I wouldn't say it's a responsibility, but it's definitely encouraged, I think, being on both sides of that coin. So I think it's honorable to do that. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Luwin, thank you again for coming in. We appreciate it. All right,
Pleasure's
we'll have you
all
back.
mine.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for watching, listening. Don't forget, like, follow, subscribe. We have our YouTube channel. You can also go to the westoftulsa.com and go to our tip line page.
It's still the tip line.
Still the tip line.
All right. You have any ideas? You want to be on our show? Garage tour. We've got the garage tour
Yep,
thing
we're doing
going on
garage
now.
tours
So
now,
we've
yeah.
actually done a bunch of those. We have more coming up. We'll
wait.
go to you.
We have one more. We have an addition to the studio.
Oh, yeah.
Is it right? Let's see what.
To your
It's
left shoulder.
Up,
Left
up high,
shoulder.
left shoulder. Up high, CJ.
Up.
Higher.
Lift your arm up.
Left
higher.
Lift your
shoulder.
left
This one.
arm
Yes.
up. Up high.
Yeah, your left.
couldn't-
Your real left.
Yeah, but you
Higher,
can't see
CJ.
it.
No, we
Higher.
can totally
Oh,
see
I
it.
see it. There
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
up there.
There it is.
Hey.
Yeah. So what is that, Christina? What am I
That
pointing?
is a chunk of the Irwindale drag strip.
You talked about that in a couple shows ago.
Yeah.
Hallowed ground. That is hallowed
Yeah.
ground in our studio now. It's pretty
Hopefully
cool.
she took it before they closed.
She was the reason they closed.
Out there with a jackhammer. All right. All right. Thanks for listening and watching. We will see you west of Tulsa.